Tigers and Commodores. We've got your preview, prediction. Vandy's favored for the first time in a million years. We're talking about it. Locked on LSU crossover. Here we go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU and Locked on Vandy. I'm Matt Moscona. He is Corey Burton. Corey, how are you?
Man, I'm great, Matt. It's great to cross over with you, man. And, man, this is going to be an exciting game, like you said. Favored for the first time in a million years. So, hey, let's get after it, man.
1977, is that right, actually?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stunning to see it go that way. We're going to talk about it here. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today, and that's actually appropriate to start. FanDuel has Vanderbilt as a favorite. It was 1.5. The number bumped up to 2.5. So as we mentioned, Vandy favored against the top 10 team for the first time since 1977. Corey, what is the reaction around Vanderbilt to just that alone?
It's very surreal, honestly. I mean, you're looking at a team that's just, when Clark Lea took over, it was like bottom of the barrel, like below the barrel, and he's built it up to this point to where we're legitimately talking about college football playoff. We're legitimately feeling like, hey, we can start to build some momentum, recruiting, NIL, transfer portal. Like, we might have a real program on our hands, and people are flocking to that, and the student tickets sold out in like minutes. I think the ticket allotment, I mean, obviously LSU travels really well, but I think it's going to be less of a home road environment than it used to be. So it's starting to kind of take root a little bit, and fans are starting to really believe in Clark Lea. When 2 years ago, coming off that Tennessee game in November of 23, a month before I started Locked on Vandy, people were doubting whether or not he would be around even at the midpoint of the next season. So lot has changed, and it's very, very exciting. And there's a lot of excitement here in Nashville, seeing more Vanderbilt logos flying around downtown too.
Yeah. Corey, the last time Media Days was in Birmingham, I remember Clark Lea was at the main podium, and he said something, I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect of Vanderbilt being the best job in college football. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like chuckled under my breath. And it's like, hey, look, man, I get it. You went there. You love the place. It's your program. You need to build it up. But we can also be like realistically honest here. I don't know that Vanderbilt's the best program in college football, or if Clark Lea even believes that in his heart of hearts. But I think what he has proven is that with the right approach, you can win there. And I think what he and Barton have done, building the roster with older players from lower levels who played a ton of football, they've got buy-in to what their system is, and they've recruited to it. It's done exceptionally well. There's probably no greater example of that than Diego Pavia. LSU got to see Pavia a year ago in Baton Rouge, and LSU managed that really well. How maybe different is Pavia from year one starter now, halfway through year two as the starter at Vandy?
He is much more developed in the passing game. I mean, he has improved significantly there. I think the depth that's been built around him is significantly improved as well, and that might play a factor when you compare last year's game to this year's game, because when they played last year, Vandy had a ton of injuries. They were like, their depth just wasn't built up to make that run late in the season. They got trounced by South Carolina. They lost control of that LSU game where they came out, took a shot early, and played extremely well, and then just petered out. And then same with Tennessee. They got off to a hot start, but kind of just tuckered out because, the depth just couldn't hold up against the likes of LSU and Tennessee, who have been years and years and years of building elite depth. So that's kind of the main differences. He's developed in the areas in his passing game that were lacking last year, that also contributed to them not being able to finish out down the stretch in those last 3 games. So just all of that stuff is led to his development, and he's been working hard.
I think what's really interesting is LSU went in the transfer portal, and Brian Kelly even disclosed he spent $18 million in this roster, and it shows, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and in particular in the secondary. So I don't know that there's going to be a ton of plays to be made passing the ball for Vanderbilt. My real question in this game is LSU's run defense and their ability to be gap sound against a Vanderbilt team that wants to run the football and is really good at it. And something that your audience will probably be interested to know and is follow this availability report. Whit Weeks questionable, Bernard Gooden doubtful. LSU's already down Gabe Relaford, who's one of their 4-man rotation at defensive end, is a really good player. He's out for the rest of the season with a shoulder injury. So the defensive front, one of the things LSU had going for it is tons of depth, both that they signed via the portal and then recruited and developed. And this is a game where that depth may be challenged a little bit by the lack of availability. So we'll see what that looks like come Saturday morning. But also, maybe you can expound a little bit on what makes Vanderbilt's running game so effective.
What makes it so effective is the movement pre-snap, the formational stuff that they do to try to get numbers advantages at the point of attack. They they put defenders in conflict. They force you to communicate across the board, and that makes things tough on defenses when, like, right before the snap, you're communicating, and even if you're a half step late on one of their counters, there's a run lane there. And also Pavia can pull it, he can option it, he can shovel it. Like, they have different things they can do off of it to where your linebackers, especially your backside edge guys, they really have to be patient before they go flying to the football. And I know LSU is a type of team that loves to fly to the football and hit those momentum gaining tackles in the backfield and those big hits and things like that. Like, they take advantage of defenses that tend to over pursue, and that's where they kind of get their yards. And then once they kind of get going and the defense, whoever it is, gets put on their heels, that's when they have those, I call them death marches, but those like 10 play, 12 play drives that eat up 7-8 minutes of clock. So it's just that, just the eye candy you have in the backfield with the jet motions and the orbit motions and the orbit return motions where he comes downhill on a counter. Just the creativity of how they do pre-snap really puts defenses in a bind.
Yeah, Vanderbilt averaging 208 rush yards per game. That's 23rd in the country. So that's a really good rushing offense that finds itself in third and manageable a lot against an LSU defense that's got a ton of skill, but maybe a little limited personnel-wise going into this game. Is there any other player offensively, skill-wise, that LSU fans should know about going into this weekend?
Well, I mean, obviously the people involved in the run game, Cedric Alexander, MK Young, AJ Newberry, they have a good stable of running backs there. Trey Richardson is somebody who can get involved in the run game from the perimeter perspective. Junior Sherrill on RPOs, just Eli Stowers. Obviously, he's the pitch man sometimes on the option. He's the shovel guy. I mean, they're going to try to get him involved as much as possible there as well. So my question to you, Matt, is when you look across the ball and you see Harold Perkins, just a dynamic player, utility guy, Swiss Army knife. We have one in Randon Fontenette. How are they planning on using Perkins against Vanderbilt's offense? Like, what role is he going to play in disrupting Diego Pavia in this offense?
Yeah, Perkins plays the star role, which is sort of a nickel Sam kind of hybrid linebacker safety role. So he plays out in space, which is different from what they had tried to make him do the last couple of years and last year before his injury, which he was trying to play off the ball. And Harold Perkins isn't a Mike. He's not a guy that you want caught up in the wash with 300-pound linemen. You want him out in space, pursuing, defending the perimeter. I think it's a game where, and look, this is where Whit Weeks' availability is going to be critical, because Perkins and Weeks are likely going to be guys that are setting near the line of scrimmage, making sure Diego Pavia doesn't beat them with his feet. Mm-hmm. And Brian Kelly even said as much earlier this week. He's like, you have to turn him into a passer. And it's not to say that Pavia can't throw the football. It's just to say when Vanderbilt's offense is going, it's when they're running the ball effectively. Mm-hmm. If LSU can limit the running game and make Pavia throw against a very talented LSU secondary, it's a big advantage to LSU. So that's sort of the objective. And I think Perkins and Weeks in tandem are probably going to be tasked with that. But I think you're right. Eye discipline is going to be huge. When we step aside real quick, I want to come back and flip the field a little bit. When LSU has the ball against that Vanderbilt defense, talk a little bit about how that matchup looks. We'll get to that here as we continue Locked On LSU and Locked On Vandy crossover edition. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. And just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. Well, the Commodores had an open date this past week, but for LSU, hard to look past anyone other than Trades Green. Caught 8 of his 11 targets, career high 119 yards and a touchdown. Trades Green delivered in a big way when the pressure was on. No hesitation, no delay. And just like Green delivered for the Tigers, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. So stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. So order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. And we're brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts for a project and need them fast? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And join the Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5. That's SupplyHouse College, SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Corey, let's flip the field a little bit. I'm curious, certainly, to talk about this Vanderbilt defense because, look, that's Clark Lea's MO. Despite the fact that he was a fullback and played offense, he's made his hay as a coach on the defensive side of the ball. And, LSU, so far this season, the offense has been a bit of an enigma. You got a returning 4,000-yard passer in Garrett Nussmeier, tons of skill guys everywhere, but 5 new offensive linemen. That, coupled with a little bit of a Nussmeier injury that they've disclosed, has really slowed this offense. So where is the strength of that Vanderbilt defense?
The strength is in the run defense. They're limiting. I think they're 5th in the conference in rush defense, allowing just under 100 yards a game against the run. They've been extremely stingy there. The pass game is, that's where, if LSU can figure it out, to me, that's where they can make their hay. And that's going to be, challenging for Vanderbilt to try to figure that out. And that's going to be the puzzle that they have to solve. But when you look at the strength of this defense, like the Langston Patterson being probable is a big deal. He was listed as questionable earlier, but the bye week coming into this game, like, he had a chance to get healthy. So that's great. Marlon Jones at corner is going to be actually doubtful. And so he's probably not going to play that. That's kind of, for depth wise, that's a big hit in the secondary, but most of the other guys on the availability report don't really play a whole lot. So that's a little bit of a relief there. So this defensive line, Corday Sidnor, Zaylin Wood, who came out with that statement, we're itching for a shutout. Those guys are pivotal on the defensive line. They're very tough. They got good pass rushing skills as well as run stopping skills. The linebackers, Longwell and Patterson are 2 really good, really highly intelligent linebackers as far as playing the run and playing the ball. So that's going to be tough for LSU to try to establish a run game. That's honestly how you beat this team, though. You establish a run. Alabama was able to establish in the second half. They were able to establish a run game with Jam Miller, and that's where they were able to then snowball and avalanche Vanderbilt in the game.
Yeah, the flip side of it is that's a strength on weakness type thing. As Vanderbilt's rush defense being solid, LSU's running game has been anemic. They're 113th in the country. LSU is at running the football.
I was blown away by that stat.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask why and how, and it's a combination of a lot of things. Most notably, like, LSU replaced 5 offensive linemen. And look, you had some good players a year ago, right? I mean, Will Campbell was the 4th pick of the draft. Emory Jones was a 3-year starter. You had those guys had combined to play about 170 games on the offensive line that you lost. So you're starting over. And you got some talented guys, but young guys that hadn't played, and you added 2 transfers who have been your best guy. Your center and your right guard, Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson, have been your 2 best offensive linemen. But the other part of it, too, has been a lack of consistency in attempting to run the football. Against Ole Miss, and my audience has heard me say this, but for the benefit of the Vanderbilt offense or audience, against Ole Miss, the game LSU lost,
right,
there were only 2 instances in the entire game where they ran the ball on consecutive plays. Like, think about that. Only 2 instances the entire game where they ran the football on consecutive plays. It is really hard to establish a ground game when you're not trying to establish a ground game.
right.
They started to fix that against South Carolina last week coming out of their bye. It was 33 passes, 33 rushes, so there was more balance.
Yeah.
And you started to see more power formations. They used several different guys at fullback. They used 14 personnel with 4 tight ends at one point. So
as an offensive coordinator, that's special, right there. 4 personnel.
Well, one of them is an offensive lineman named Bo Bordelon. They put a tight end jersey on him. Yeah, I think 89. He wears 67. They put 89 on and put him out there to block. So they showed a commitment to trying. They averaged 6 yards a carry against South Carolina. So is that replicable? Will they stick with it? I don't know. I mean, that's a one game. It's a small sample. The larger sample is they're not good at running the football. But I agree with you. If Vanderbilt has to respect LSU's ability to run the football, that is going to create giant mismatches with LSU's receivers and Vanderbilt in the secondary, because LSU has really fast, big, talented pass catchers all over the field, and they come in waves. The problem has been making defenses respect the run game enough not to drop 8. In the Ole Miss game, Ole Miss played 86% of the defensive snaps, drop 8. So they had rushing 3, dropping 8 on 86% of the snaps. 86, dropping 8. Like, the joke I made, Corey, is I don't care if it's Joe Montana against the Little Giants. Like, if every one of your receivers is double covered, it's hard to find open guys in passing lanes. So, that's going to be, I think, the real challenge for LSU this week, is even if it's not going great, committing to running the football, because just that commitment will force Vanderbilt to at least respect your opportunity to run and maybe open up some stuff in the pass game.
It'll take bodies out of the secondary for sure, and force them to dive in against the run. That's perfect. But I think if they can, and this is where Miles Capers comes in, because you still, with 3 or 4 guys, if you're dropping a ton of guys, you still want to get a formidable pass rush with your down guys. Sidnor's really good at it. Miles Capers has been really good at it. He's kind of the edge guy that they've really been pleased with, and he's been really impressive at getting to the quarterback. And if they can get home on a couple of blitzes while they're dropping a ton of people, I also think that will cause Garrett Nussmeier to struggle a little bit. And maybe he makes a couple of errant throws. And in a game that's going to be tightly contested like this one is going to be, those are going to be the difference makers. So, like, when you look at Garrett Nussmeier's red zone interceptions, or just his 7 interceptions overall, like what is the, how do those come about? Is it bad decisions, bad throws, injury contribute to any of them significantly, or just good coverage? Sometimes the corner just gets you. Like, how,
a little bit of both. I'll give you, so for example, his first interception that he threw against Louisiana Tech, they ran a go route down the left sideline, and Berrien Brown was open by 5 yards. I mean, he broke off the line, and this was going to be a touchdown, and Nussmeier just didn't get the ball out to him. He underthrew it by a good bit, and it was intercepted. It was kind of deflected, then intercepted. That's one where you can go, okay, that's a throw Garrett Nussmeier makes in his sleep 100 times out of 100 when he's right. So a lot of people looked at that and were like, okay, that was the second game of the year. It's like, okay, that was pretty evident that he was battling through something there.
Yeah.
The interception at the goal line last week against South Carolina was a really bad decision. Garrett Nussmeier's read was the safety. He didn't read the safety, and he cost LSU an opportunity at points when they were trying to distance themselves in the game. And that's one where a veteran player knows better, and he made a mistake. The ones you really have to purge are the forced physical errors. He had one against Ole Miss. They were driving deep in Ole Miss territories down around the 10-yard line, and he threw one into double coverage that got picked when he actually had Xavion Thomas behind the safety for a touchdown. Those are the ones where, when Garrett's getting frustrated, he might be trying too hard to force balls that don't need to be thrown. And sometimes Brian Kelly's often says, you need your worst play to be 0, meaning if it ain't there, just throw it into the third row. Like, live to play another down.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
for most of this season, Garrett Nussmeier has been a really effective, efficient player. But that frustration certainly crept up against Ole Miss, and we saw some poor decisions against South Carolina as well. It'll be interesting to see a healthier Garrett Nussmeier, how he sort of maybe tries to operate a little more patiently within himself against Vanderbilt. But you're right. I mean, if that's what will swing this game. If Garrett's turning the ball over, LSU fumbled, at the goal line last week against South Carolina. Those are the things that will get you beat on the road against anybody in the SEC. So playing efficient and protecting the football. I know it sounds obvious, but that's going to be paramount. You'll know how Garrett Nussmeier feels based on his decision making.
And the little obvious things, and to an audience listening to a podcast, they're wanting like something nitty gritty. But a lot of these games in this conference come down to the very, very simple, basic things. Can you tackle well in space? Can you make good decisions at the quarterback position? And can you hang on to the ball and move the chains? Like, that's usually what it comes down to. And it seems so obvious to talk about. And it's like, well, why do we need this big show? But like, it's usually the context behind accomplishing all those things that get you there. So for Vandy's defense, they have to eliminate that space. They have to be, and sometimes with a quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier, it's not necessarily about getting after him as much as it is about disrupting his timing with his receivers, like making Barryon Brown earn his way off the line of scrimmage, making them find that second and third window to where Nussmeier has to double clutch, and Corday Sidnor might have a chance of disrupting the throw, getting a hit on him, or even making a sack. But it's those little things defensively, is like that little bit of space that was open up last week against South Carolina. If you close that, maybe that Kyle Parker touchdown doesn't happen, or maybe he overthrows Chris Hilton by a mile, and Marlon Sewell's back there to pick it off. As my camera just decided it hated me, is like, hey, shut up.
Happens.
But yeah, it's things like that. And if they can, to me, to stop an elite guy like Garrett Nussmeier, he's obviously been injured. And it's going to be, hey, let's test out that ankle. Let's put you on the move, and let's flush you out of the pocket. Let's make sure that oblique is 100%. So when he's making a throw on the run, he has to torque into one and see if he can do it. That's going to be the things Vanderbilt's defense is going to have to do, and just be extremely disruptive.
Let's talk about the third phase and get picks. We'll do it next. Locked on LSU, Locked on Vandy, crossover. Today's episode is brought to you by Rugiet Ready. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex?
Oh,
confidence.
Pure
confidence.
Yeah, I would say.
If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet's Go Long comes in. It's not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships directly to your door and discreetly to your door. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to RUGIET.com. That's Rugiet.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com. Promo code Locked On College. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. That's code Locked On College. And we're brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What I love about FanDuel is the many different ways that you can play. Building parlays, player props. You can even follow live lines during the game. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. All right, Corey, give me a sense of the third phase. How's Vandy on special teams?
They're great. Brock Taylor, the Brocket launcher, is pretty good.
What a name.
You gotta love that, right? He can hit some pretty deep field goals there. And Martell Height, if you can get him going in the punt return game, he's going to be pretty special there as well. So, and they actually blocked 3 punts this year. What a block to fourth, but he roughed the kicker against Utah State. So,
yeah, LSU. It's special teams have been an enigma under Brian Kelly, unfortunately. But this year they've kind of figured it out. You got Damian Ramos as your 4th-year kicker. Grant Chadwick's averaging better than 50 yards a punt. They got him out of the portal. Berrien Brown, Xavier Thomas have been excellent in the return game. And then because they've had so much depth, you even see like starters and veteran players in the coverage units. So it will be interesting to see if anyone might be able to gain an advantage here in the third phase with LSU and Vanderbilt Saturday in the game there. One other thing that I think could potentially factor, and I am curious about the early start. It's worth mentioning that LSU has been practicing at 11 a.m. later this week to get ready for the 11 a.m. start, waking up, doing team meals and all that stuff. So at 6 a.m. to prepare and try to regulate for an early start, which will be the first time this year that LSU kicks off at 11 a.m. Central Time. We'll get picks in 60 seconds. This is an awesome opportunity always to do the crossover here with LSU and with Vandy. And as we count down to the Tigers and the Commodores, we know you'll always get your previews here on Locked On. But remember, you can always get post-game editions as well. Corey, do you do an immediate post-game after Vanderbilt?
I do. And if it's not immediate, I usually announce when it's going to be. So, yes.
So immediately after the game or shortly thereafter, you'll get Locked On LSU, Locked On Vandy, recapping the action from Vanderbilt Stadium there. Actually, look, by the way, what do they call it now? It's
It's First Bank.
First Bank. I knew it was a bank. But First Bank Stadium there in Nashville will be my first time in Nashville for a game since 2019, the last time LSU played there. So looking forward to being there for the Tigers and the Commodores. All your build-up pregame, and then, of course, as soon as the game's over, you can catch Locked On LSU for the postgame show, and then, of course, Locked On Vandy as well for the Vandy content there after the Tigers and the Commodores. A couple of one-loss teams trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. All right, Corey, about 30 seconds. Give me a pick.
I think Vanderbilt's going to try to turn this thing into a rock fight. And if it's a low-scoring affair, it means Garrett Nussmeier's probably made a couple of bad decisions, and they've kind of not shut down the pass game, but limited it enough to where they can get an advantage and control the ball. So I think Vanderbilt's going to win a game like 17-14. 20 is probably the ceiling. If LSU can get above 24, I think they win with that score. But I think it's going to be like a 2017, 17-14 type game where Vanderbilt kind of controls it a little bit.
I think it's a carbon copy of a year ago. I'll pick LSU by the same score, 24-17. LSU's played all unders this year until they prove they can go score. I don't believe they will. I just think LSU's got better talent. 185, they'll find a way to get it done. So I think we both agree, though, low-scoring game. We'll see how it plays out. All right, that's going to do it for us here. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. It's Locked On LSU, Locked On Vandy, your team every day.